within 33 milliseconds, faster than conscious thought, people's brains have made a judgment about whether they should trust you as a strategic leader. Not because of what you've accomplished, not because of your credentials, but because of how you show up. If you're communicating from a place of hesitation, doubt, or over-explaining, their brains are categorising you as a supporter, not a strategist, which makes you work even harder to prove yourself. My lovely, lean in and listen, because I'm about to drop you a truth bomb. The harder you work, the less visible you become. This is called the visibility paradox. Over time, you become the best kept secret in your organisation. But here's what neuroscience also shows. That judgment can shift, your presence can change, your influence can grow. Today, we're exploring conversation and influence, the exact skills that transform how people perceive your leadership. Hello, my lovely. Welcome back to the Leader Within podcast, Strategic Leadership for Women. I'm Sue-Ann Higgins, and I'm glad you're here. If you've been with me since the beginning of this podcast, you know that we've been on quite a transformational path together. Today, I want to acknowledge something important that's happened. We're refreshing our name, not because who we are has changed, but because where we're going has become crystal clear. For the past 26 episodes, this was simply the Leader Within podcast. And I still hold that name close to my heart because it reflects the core truth at the heart of my work. The leader you need to become is already within you. That's not borrowed. It's not something you need to build from scratch. It's already there. But here's what I've learned after thousands of coaching conversations with high-achieving women across industries, across continents, and across career stages. You don't just need to find the leader within. You need to be seen as the strategic leader you actually are. You see, I work with women who are genuinely brilliant. They're delivering exceptional results. They're solving complex problems. They're moving the needle within organisations. Yet they're feeling increasingly invisible doing so. That's not a coincidence. It's a pattern I've identified in virtually every coaching engagement over the past decade. I call it the visibility paradox. The harder you work using old methods, the more invisible you become. So we've refreshed the name to the Leader Within, Strategic Leadership for Women, because that's exactly what you need. Not just generic leadership advice, not motivation and inspiration, although there's always warmth here. You need strategic leadership specifically designed for women, for your unique challenges, for your specific context. This name does three things. First, it's more visible in searches. Women leaders looking for the exact guidance you came here for will actually find us. Second, it directly tells you what this podcast is about, strategic leadership, not just self-help. And third, it positions this as your dedicated resource. Not leadership for everyone, strategic leadership for women who feel unseen, unheard, and unsupported despite their obvious capability. But here's what's important. Nothing is changing about the methodology. The brain science is the same, the frameworks are the same, the rigour is the same, and more importantly, I'm still here, still Sue-Ann Higgins, still committed to helping you move from being overlooked and exhausted to intentional and influential. Before we go any further, I want to paint a picture of what I see in the women I work with. Because if this resonates with you, you'll know you're in the right place. You're accomplished. You've worked hard to get where you're at. Your track record speaks for itself. You deliver results. You solve problems, you're reliable, you show up, and most likely you over deliver. And somewhere along the way, you've hit that invisible ceiling or the invisible walls, not because you're not capable, but because nobody knows who you are. Your ideas are brilliant, but they get attributed to someone else in the meeting. Your strategic insights are solid, but they get overlooked while a colleague's half-baked idea gets championed. You put in tremendous effort, yet you watch other people with less expertise advance faster. You're invited to meetings, but your voice carries no weight. You're consulted for your expertise, but treated as a support function rather than a strategic leader. This is the visibility paradox, and it shows up in three distinct ways. First, there's the leadership plateau. You feel invisible despite your contributions. Your ideas are overlooked. Strategic conversations happen without you. You're respected for your work, but you're not invited into strategic decisions. You're capable, but not seen as a leader. Second, there's the performance plateau. You're working harder to get nowhere faster. You're putting in the long hours, taking on more and more, proving more, and still not seeing the advancement or the recognition you deserve. Your effort isn't translating to impact or visibility. You're exhausted, but the ladder isn't moving. Third, there's the self-belief plateau. You've managed an increasingly louder inner critic. You second-guess your decisions. You're wondering really if you are actually strategic enough, confident enough, experienced enough. You're experiencing what so many high-achieving women's experience at 2 a.m. Racing thoughts, doubt, that voice that whispers, maybe I'm not as capable as people say I am or as I think I am. These three plateaus are not about your capability. They're not about your intelligence. They're not about how hard you work. They're about your thinking, communicating, and showing up as a leader. And here's what I really want you to know. These are all learnable skills. All three are changeable. All three are within your control. Over the next 6 weeks, we're exploring a framework that will change everything about how you approach your own development. It's called the Savviness Ladder, and it's a diagnostic tool that unlocks every episode in this season and all episodes to follow. But before I explain it, I want to tell you why it exists. Most leadership development treats everyone the same way. You go to training, you learn a concept, you go back to work and you try and apply it, and it doesn't stick. Not because the training was bad, not because you're not capable, but because the training didn't account for where you actually are at on that journey with that specific skill. There's a gap between knowing what to do and knowing how to do it. Let me give you an example. Sarah is brilliant with data. She understands stakeholder influence intellectually. She attended 3 workshops on influence strategies. She gets the concepts. She can recite the framework. But when she's in an actual conversation with her CFO about budget allocation, her mind goes blank. She second guesses herself. She softens her message. She doesn't trust her own thinking. So the framework she learned doesn't help her. She ends up feeling like she's failed at training when actually she was just in the wrong place on the savviness ladder for that skill. You might have the know what you understand the concept intellectually, but without the know how, the practical capability to apply it at your actual level, nothing changes. You end up feeling like you're not good enough. Like maybe this isn't for you. Like maybe you're missing something that others naturally have. But that's not true. you're not broken, you're not incapable, you're just starting on a different rung on the Savviness Ladder than you were 6 months ago. And that rung is exactly where you need to be. Here's how the Savviness Ladder works. It measures your capability on any specific leadership skill. It has 10 rungs. And here's what's crucial. You're not on the same rung for every skill. You might be on rung 8 for strategic communication. You're known for clarity, but you might be on rung 3 for difficult conversations. You avoid them. Both are legitimate and both are developmental opportunities. The rungs go like this. Rungs 1 and 2 are the awareness stage. You're just beginning to understand that you need to develop the capability. You might not even realise it's a problem yet, but you see the gap, but you're not quite sure what to do about it. Rungs 3 and 4 are the knowledge stage. You understand the concepts, you've read about it, you've taken a workshop, but you can't consistently apply it yet. The theory makes sense, but the practice doesn't. Rungs 5 and 6 are where street cred happens. You have real world know-how. You can apply the skill most of the time. Others are starting to notice you're building genuine capability. Under pressure, you may slip a bit, but mostly you are solid. Rung 7 and 8 is mastery. You know the skill, you embody it, you can teach it, you can adapt it to different situations. You're the person that people turn to. It's becoming automatic. And then rung 9 and 10 are thought leadership. You're not just using the skill, you're innovating with it. Others are seeking you out. You're influencing how your field thinks about this capability. Now, here's the game changer. A power move for someone that is on rung 2 looks completely different for someone that is on rung 6. If you're already at rung 3 and try and apply a rung 7 power move, your brain rejects it as it's too advanced. It feels overwhelming and you give up. But if you apply the power move designed for rung 3, you experience an immediate shift. You start building confidence and the next rung becomes accessible. This is why the Leader Within Savviness Ladder changes everything. It's not about giving you the right skill. It's about giving you the skill that's right for where you are right now. Before we go deeper, I want to show you how conversation and influence fits into the complete leadership ecosystem. It's called the Leader Within Circumplex, and it has 3 domains. Think of these like concentric circles. The first layer is leading self. This is your inner world and how you experience yourself. This is where self-leadership lives. Your confidence, your ability to manage self-doubt, your resilience under pressure, your emotional salience. When your inner world is stable, everything else becomes possible. The second layer is leading others. This is your outer world. It's how others experience you. This is where leadership presence lives, how you're perceived, how people respond to you, and where conversations and influence live. This is about moving from invisible to influential, from overlooked to heard, from supporting everyone else's agenda to having your voice shape strategic direction. The third layer is leading change. This is the external world and how everyone uniquely experiences the circumstances around them, how they navigate complexity, how they help others embrace change. When all these 3 layers are aligned, when your inner confidence matches your outer presence, and you can navigate that external complexity, that's when leadership becomes magnetic. Now, let me paint you a picture of what conversation and influence looks like when it's strong. People actively listen to you when you speak. Your ideas get attributed to you, not lost in the crowd. You're invited into strategic conversations early. You communicate once and are heard the first time. Your authority is respected without constant justification. You can read a room and adapt your message in real time. People feel your confidence. When you're stuck on a lower rung, this is what it looks like. You over-explain because you're not sure how people will understand. You soften your message because you're worried about how it will land. You speak hesitantly, possibly with lots of ums and ahs, and then wonder why people don't take you seriously. You're brilliant at the one-on-one conversations, but invisible in groups. You have the ideas, but someone else is getting the credit. Over the next 6 episodes, we're going to systematically move you up this ladder. Each episode builds on the last. Each power move gets progressively more advanced. By the end of the series, you won't just communicate better. You'll communicate with intention, with clarity, and with strategic influence. And people will respond to you differently, not because you're fundamentally changed, but because you're finally showing up as the leader you actually are. Here's how this season works. Each episode introduces a different try harder trap, an automatic pattern that's keeping you stuck. These traps are rooted in neuroscience. They're not character flaws. They're survival patterns your brain has developed. Then I teach you a power move, the specific skill or shift that breaks that trap. But before you apply the power move, you'll identify the rung on the Savviness Ladder for that specific skill. This is crucial because if you're on rung 3 and you try a rung 7 power move, you'll feel overwhelmed. But if you apply the power move designed for rung 3, you'll get immediate traction. Over the coming episodes, you'll reference the Savviness Ladder every single week. Download it, print it, keep it somewhere accessible. The link is in the show notes. Here's what's coming. Episode 28 is Communicate Concisely. The trap is over-explaining. The power moves are speak simply and speak plainly. The insight, concise communication signals confidence. Your listener's brain actually processes better with less information. Episode 29 is the diplomatic poise. The trap is irritability or snappiness under pressure. The power moves are don't buy into the drama and power pause before response. The insight, your stress is contagious. When you regulate yourself, everyone around you feels safer. Episode 30 is audience mastery. The trap is mind reading, assuming what others were thinking without asking. The power moves is ask better questions and set up the team for success. The insight, you don't have to read minds, you just have to ask better questions. Episode 31 is my favourite, strategic lobbying. The trap is the people-pleasing trap, which causes invisibility through waiting for your work to speak for itself. The power move is lobby before the ask and send a win story. The insight, strategic visibility isn't self-promotion, it's strategic clarity that adds value. Episode 32 is network intentionally. The trap is busyness, which drives isolation. The power move is to be more intentional and write a gratitude note. The insight is your network is the infrastructure for your influence. Relationships amplify everything. And then we have more layers that we will build into the coming series. The next one is brand presence mastery, because visibility without strategy is just noise, but we'll get there a little bit later. There's one core truth that drives every episode in this next 6 series. I want you to hear it clearly because it changes everything. And I want you to write this down so that you remember it. It's not what you're communicating, but how you're communicating that determines your strategic visibility. You have brilliant ideas, you have solid thinking, you have valuable contributions. The problem isn't what you're saying, the problem is how you're saying it. And that's teachable, that's changeable. That's something that you can work on this week and see a shift next week. This is what I call reconstructed thinking. It's not a vague mindset shift. It's a deliberate, methodical practice of dismantling a limiting thought pattern and building a more effective one in its place. It's precise, it's scientific, and it's effective. And here's the promise. You're only one reconstructed thought away from the breakthrough you deserve in your leadership journey and in your life. Before we wrap up, I want to invite you to do some honest self-assessment. For each of the 5 capabilities we'll be covering, concise communication, diplomatic poise, audience mastery, strategic lobbying, and network intentionality, which rung are you actually on? Not which rung do you wish you were on? Not which rung you think you should be on. Which rung are you actually on right now? This is the black baseline, and here's why it matters. The moment you get honest about where you are, everything shifts. You stop fighting yourself. You stop comparing yourself to someone 3 rungs ahead. You stop applying skills that were way too advanced for where you're at. You just focus on the next step. And your next step is always manageable. Your next step is always within reach. Before you do anything else, here's what I need you to do. Download the Leader Within Savviness Ladder. It's in the show notes. This is not optional. This is a diagnostic tool that makes every episode in the future work. Go to Sue and enter your email. Yes, it requires an opt-in. Here's why. When you opt in, you're joining the Leader Within community. You're making a commitment to your own development. That investment, even just the 2 minutes of your time, creates the conditions for real change. Your brain actually shifts when you make an active choice. Once you have the Savviness Ladder, do 4 things. First, identify your rung for each of the 5 capabilities we'll be covering. Concise communication, diplomatic poise, audience mastery, strategic lobbying, and network intentionality. Write them down. Second, that becomes your baseline. You now have a very clear picture of where you are at. Third, after each episode, come back to the Savviness Ladder and see if your rung has shifted. Usually it does because awareness alone creates movement. Fourth, write down the specific power move that corresponds to the rung for your capability. Use it, apply it, notice what changes. Now, for some of you listening, you may be thinking, Sue-Ann, I've already identified multiple areas where I'm at rung 3 or 4. I understand the concepts, but I can't seem to apply them. I need personalised guidance on where to focus first. I've created something specific for you for that moment. It's called the Leader Within Assessment. For 67 Australian dollars, which is an investment in clarity, not just a cost, you'll get a personalised video coaching session with me. In that session, I'll identify your primary development opportunity. I'll give you your first power move. I'll show you your 30-day blueprint to make it stick. Now, I know some of you stress about booking meetings and finding the right time. I've got that problem solved. This personal coaching session is through a system I call Video Ask. You send me a message, then I listen to it. You first do the assessment and send me a video or an audio message. I then reply within a short period of time. So you don't need to stress about being available because I know everyone has a really busy calendar. The power of this assessment is that you get 7 days worth of one-on-one coaching. You also get access to the next live group coaching call, which is via Zoom. It's called the Leader Within Collective. So you're not going to be doing this alone. But for now, start with the Savviness Ladder. It's free, it's foundational, and it changes everything. Here's what I want you to know as we close. You came to this podcast possibly feeling unseen, unheard, invisible despite your obvious capability. But one thing I do know is that you're brilliant. You're genuinely brilliant. You've delivered results, you've solved problems, you've moved needles, and somewhere along the way, the world stopped seeing you. The visibility paradox caught you. But this is not your permanent address. It's a pattern, and patterns can be interrupted. You're not behind, you're not broken, you're not missing something others naturally have. You're at a different rung on the Savviness Ladder than you were 6 months ago. And that rung is exactly where you need to be to climb higher. By the end of this 6-week series, you'll have moved up multiple rungs across 5 critical capabilities. You'll have 10 power moves that work specifically at your level. You'll have a framework that explains how your brain works and why certain patterns have been sticky. Most importantly, you'll be stepping into what I call a strategic trailblazer. That's the leader you're becoming, not someone who works harder, someone who works differently, someone who thinks clearly about her contribution, someone whose communication commands attention, someone who builds relationships strategically, and someone whose leadership presence is felt, someone whose ideas shape direction. It's not high in the sky. That's the consistent outcome I see with women that I work with, because this isn't about capability. It's about clarity. As we close, I want to make you a promise and ask for one commitment. My promise: every single episode in this series is designed for you to walk away with something immediately actionable, not theory, not inspirational, practical, specific, applicable guidance you can use this week. My ask is that you commit to the work. You download the Savviness Ladder, you identify your rungs, you listen to each episode as it comes up and try the power moves. Notice what shifts. That's all I'm asking, because you're only one reconstructed thought away from the breakthrough you deserve in your life and leadership journey. You're not one massive overhaul away. You're not one promotion away. You're one thought away. Thank you for being here, my lovely, for choosing to think, communicate, and show up differently. This season is going to transform how you show up, not because I'm going to give you something new, but because I'm going to help you see what is already there. Your next level is waiting. The strategic trailblazer is already within you. Until next episode, keep climbing that Savviness Ladder. Lead with clarity, passion, and purpose. Bye for now.